In this video, we're going to take a quick look at some API endpoints so that we can get familiar with what to expect and how to interact with those API endpoints. You don't need to follow along right now. In the next section, we'll go through setting up, configuring, and how to use all of the tools that I'm about to show you, but this is just a hands-on demo to help you visualize the theory that we've talked about. So here we are at the catfacts API or catfacts.ninja API. And we have some documentation here, and it gives us two main sections. One is the breeds, and one is the facts. So we can click into these to see which endpoints exist. And the easiest way to get some data from an API endpoint is simply to browse to it. So if we look at this /fact, it returns a random fact. So all I'm going to do is copy this URL, paste this, and go to /fact and see what comes back. And if I zoom in a little bit, we have the fact: Abraham Lincoln loved cats. He had 4 of them while he lived in the White House. I didn't know that, so that's quite cool. We also get back this length as well. And if we come back to the documentation here, we do have this max length parameter. So within the documentation, it's telling us that we can specify a max length. So I'm just going to copy this, come back to the facts, and then add this as a parameter and hit enter. And we can see that indeed the fact that's passed back, cats have supersonic hearing, is a length of 28, so less than 30 that's specified. And if we hit enter again, we get a different one, and all of them are less than 30. Another way we can interact with API endpoints is through Burp Suite. So I already have this set up and ready to go, and in the next section I'll show you how to get this set up as well. And we just come into Burp Suite, we come into proxy, HTTP history, and you can see actually the requests that I've sent already. And I'm just going to move myself out of the way. Here we go. And you can see that we have our request here, get /fact to catfacts.ninja, and here is our response, 200 OK, and here is the fact that is returned at the end. Now, something that's really useful in Burp Suite that we'll be using a lot throughout the course is called the repeater. So you can press Ctrl+R, or you can right-click and send to repeater to send a request to the repeater tab. Now here, what we have is we have the request, but we don't have any response. And if we come back here, we can't actually modify this request at all. We can't do anything with it. We can see what we sent and what we got back. But with the repeater, we can modify things. So for example, I can remove the cookie and then send the request again. And you can see that it tries to set a new cookie. But obviously, in this way, we can start to interact with the application in a manual way to test API endpoints. And for example, here we have fact and we have the max length is 100. What happens if we pass -1? Will this break the application? Will this have some strange behavior? It seems like it handles it gracefully and just returns nothing, but this is a good way to start testing API endpoints. So the next way we're going to look at interacting with our API endpoints is by using Postman. So I'll go through the interface and kind of an introduction to Postman in the later section because there's quite a lot to look at. But all we're going to do this time is grab this endpoint from here and put it into a GET request. So we can just copy and paste this in, select GET from here if it's set to something else, hit send, and you can see that we get some information back. So the average cat can jump 8 feet in a single bound. So that's pretty impressive. And here, of course, same as Burp Suite, we can inspect things like the cookies, the headers, and we can also modify the request as well. So we can come back and put in our max length and the value, let's say 30, send this back, and we get another cat fact. So this gives us a lot more control over than just using the browser. Obviously, Postman and Burp Suite both have pros and cons to them, and we'll be exploring both throughout this course because I think you should always use the right tool for the right situation. And sometimes it's hard to make that call, but if we know how to use both, then we're going to be much better equipped to dealing with any APIs that come our way. So the final thing I want to share with you is curl. So I'm just going to come over to my terminal and open a new tab. And it's always useful to be able to use the terminal if you need to quickly test something or write a short script. Sometimes we need to be able to do something that doesn't come standard in the tools we use. So instead of messing around with extensions, we could just use tools like bash and curl and get the job done. So here I'm just going to curl https://catfact.ninja, and core/fact. And you can see that as before, it comes back with a response. And if we want to see more information like the headers, we can use verbose mode. So we can just send the same request with -v and send it again, and we get all the information we need, and we can pass that to another command line tool or save the output or do whatever we want with it. And that's it for this video. Next up, we're going to look at different types of APIs and then a brief introduction to API security before we go into setting up our lab in the next section. I'll see you there.